Thanks for being with us today. I'm Nate Eaton, and today's show comes about from a Facebook post that I read earlier this week from a friend, and it says, "When our child came out as LGBT a few years ago, we were very hard-pressed to find any kind of support group for all of us. So we started our own. It's called Open Arms of Southeast Idaho. We soon outgrew our living room and have since gathered in other friends' homes. We meet monthly. This Sunday, we started back up after having taken the summer off. They meet from 7 to 8:30 with a dessert potluck following, and some excellent speakers have come, including Tom Christofferson, other renowned therapists, and LGBT allies." Annalee Kelly is the one that wrote that Facebook post, and she is here today with her son Aiden, who is transgender, and we're going to discuss this issue. There's a lot of people out there that are uncomfortable with the topic, I guess you could say, or just don't know how to talk about it. So we're just going to be open and honest, and I might ask some naive questions, and please feel free to correct me or educate me, I guess we could say.
Sure.
Aiden, I just want to start with your story.
So when I was about 13, I came out as gay to my parents, and I didn't really know what it meant to be gay or even to be transgender. And so it was really hard, but as I grew up, as time went by and I learned what was what, I came to realize that I was not gay, but transgender, and that was really hard to come to terms with, but eventually I had good friends and good family, and I came to love myself, and even though it was really hard.
And you're how old now?
I am 17.
So this was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And you were born a woman, a girl, is that the correct thing? Assigned female, but you're living your life as a man.
Yeah.
And how was that coming to terms with the fact that you are a guy?
That was really hard because people tell you, no, you're not. But I don't know how I answer.
Mm-hmm. So Annalee, you're the mother of a teenager and you have other children.
Mm-hmm.
And does Aiden come to you and say, I'm gay, or was it something that you kind of kept inside for a while before going to your parents? How did that play out?
It was a mundane Saturday in the springtime, and I remember the day just is burned into my memory since, but I was doing the dishes and he came into me and he was clutching his journal. And he said, "Mom, I need you to read something. Can we go somewhere in private?" So I said, sure. He got my attention and we went outside to the backyard, and I proceeded to read this excerpt that he'd marked, and he went on talking about how much he hated himself and how he wanted to die, and the fact that he was not attracted to men, then Emma. And so I calmly said, we need some help. Let's go talk to Dad. And we went upstairs, and Dad was folding laundry, and we said we need to discuss something, and we locked the door so other kids couldn't come in. And then we started to share with Dad what we had just read. And we felt impressed at that very moment in time to meet him where he was at, and just to say, we love you. We're so glad you came to us with this burden. I'm so sorry you've held on to this for so many years. And from that day forward, we've been looking for help and resources.
There's quite a bit that you said there, but the thing that I think impressed me the most is that you said we just felt to meet him where he was at and love him. Was there a moment, though, where you might think, well, no, you're not, or
Sure.
you're going to outgrow this, or this is just a teenage thing?
Sure.
Did you verbalize that?
No, I don't think so. But in my mind, I was panicked. I thought this is just a phase. Society has created these kinds of ideas and principles. And many people think it's a choice to be gay or to be transgender, and that's what I used to think. I was very judgmental. My sister was gay, and I wouldn't allow her to bring her partner to our home. That's how homophobic I used to be. And then this came at me as a wave and slapped me in the face, if you will. And so at that point, we've changed direction. I've lived with a suicidal teenager, and you do not know how difficult and gut-wrenching it is to see the suicide rates amongst LGBT youth, and to see Aiden just writhing on the floor, tearing at his body, saying, I hate my body, I hate myself, I can't look in the mirror. I'm not born this way, I don't know what to do, I can't make it change, I make it stop, Mom, make it stop. And we've had him in and out of therapy and on different drugs, and we've tried just to sustain his life. We've tried just to keep him alive, doing whatever that takes. We've had amazing church leaders, both a bishop and a stake president, and we've had great neighbors and friends. But we needed more. You crave to not be alone. You crave not to be isolated with a burden this big. And that's the way Open Arms was created. I thought, I can't be the only one dealing with an LGBT child. I need support, because there's very little information about it out there, and correct information. But I knew at that moment, after watching my teen struggle and cry and rip his hair out and tear out his body, to know it was no choice, to live with that day after day for weeks and months. I knew that this is who he is. This is gender dysphoria hitting us in the face.
So you mentioned your bishop and stake president. I want to get back to that about your church membership and involvement. But when your, at the time, daughter was born, you named her Emma.
Yes.
When did you change your name, Aiden?
So we haven't legally changed it as of yet, but I went through several names, kind of testing things out. I'm not sure how long before I came out.
2 years ago?
2 years, so around.
So the first 2 years you thought you were gay, and then what was there a point where you thought, no, I don't think it's that. I just don't think I'm in the right body, the right gender.
Yeah, that took like 1.5 years. And it was such a short time after I realized that I was transgender that I came out, because I could not keep that to myself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the vocabulary at such a young age to realize that his brain didn't match his biological sex. He didn't understand that's what transgender was.
And so I guess as parents, you deal with the fact that he comes out as gay originally, but then two years later he says, actually, I think I'm transgender. Was that, would you consider that another blow, or were you kind of like, we've dealt with it, we're going to help you? What was your reaction at that point?
No, it was another blow. I could deal with gay. I grew up with gay friends and mentors in our home growing up in the arts and in the music. That was a common thing. But the transgender piece meant I had to grieve a daughter. So it was a huge blow. It was very different, and it's taken us a long time. We couldn't call him by his name. I couldn't change the pronouns. He changed his hygiene. He changed everything he did and who he was. And I couldn't, it took a long time to grieve, for Dad and I to come around to grieve.
So you were still calling him Emma, saying she, because you had, and at what point, or was there one specific point where you said, I just got to do this? Or over time did your attitude and heart kind of change and say, this is who he is?
I had to take a plunge. It almost came overnight, literally one time, because I had seen a Facebook post about a group that Aiden had belonged to called Affirmation, and there was a peer mentor there, said, I met a kid today whose parents can't even call him the right name. And so he has a blown identity. We're worried about him. We're worried about his psyche. And this parent is just stuck in the past. And I thought, that's me. They're talking about me.
Does it feel, are you 100% content with it now, today?
I am. I'm at peace with it. I've given it over to God.
Wow. Okay, so here's what you've probably heard, and I want you to respond to it, because I know people watching might have the questions. One is, well, how, if you're born a girl, how can you change into a guy? You're born with what you are. And Aiden, feel free to respond to these. Have people asked you that?
Yeah.
And what do you say?
Well, I changed my clothing, the way I dress. I changed, for me, this is kind of a minor thing, or like a weird thing, but like I changed the way I walked a little bit, because there's a different gait, I guess. It was a bunch of small things like that. And my friends, I lost most of my friends when I came out, but I did find some really good friends after, probably a few months after that, and they didn't even hesitate. They were the best. So my friends called me Aiden, and
Teachers, administration.
At the school, they changed it. Because I remember how hard it was being a teenager, not being gay or transgender. I can't imagine throwing this into it. So what do you say to people that say, well, no, the chromosomes were born this way and you can't change nature or God? What's your response?
I get that. I was there. I've lived that. I don't know. We don't have all the answers. All I know is that inside he's male and we have to deal with what we've been given. I don't know either. I keep wrestling with that, and I've just come to a point where I give it to my God and I say, I don't know what your plan is for LGBT people on the spectrum, but I know there is a plan. I know he's wanted and I know he's loved, but I've just got to let that piece go. I sit it on a shelf for now. My husband and I we are content with who he is. We want him to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive as a transgender man, and so we'll do whatever it takes to help him become successful and happy. That's all we want.
So you've mentioned your faith. Mm-hmm. You guys are active Latter-day Saints?
Yes, yes.
Always have been?
Always have been. Served missions and served in leadership callings.
So this happens to Mormon families?
Oh, absolutely.
Obviously, the church has some teachings. How would you describe your thoughts toward those teachings?
The church has softened their stance quite a bit over the years. So I don't like to read the older writings. Like I wouldn't pick up the Miracle of Forgiveness and read that particular chapter. But today they focus on, Elder Ballard in particular says this is not a choice. We don't know why this occurs. Gender dysphoria is real and it's legitimate, and they don't say a whole lot more than that. And that's where we're at with that. Aiden has stepped away from the church, and we feel like that's the right thing for him right now to keep him safe and sane. And it's a beautiful ambiance and relationship we have in the home because he respects our values and our standards, and he lets us pray and fast and go to the temple and do all those things that bind us to our covenants that are so important to us. But we allow him the same to believe whatever he needs to, and to just encourage whatever path he takes to take God with him. That's all.
And I'm sure there's been a lot of praying and fasting and going to the temple over the past 4 years.
Yes.
What about you mentioned you had a real supportive bishop and stake president. How about the members around you?
They've been great. I've never received any unkind thoughts. We've never been vandalized. We've never been ostracized. Aiden has, on a social level, for sure. He lost a lot of friends when he came out. However, the neighbors and friends have been very supportive. We've not received anything unkind, and he's never received any bullying at the high school. Not once, not even over bathroom issues. Skyline has been wonderful.
Speaking of bathroom issues, how does that work?
Before I started transitioning fully, hormonally, when I would go into either bathroom, I would get weird looks because I was too masculine for the girls' bathroom and too feminine for the boys' bathroom. But other than that, it was fine.
And do you use the men's bathroom now?
Yeah, I do.
And do you get any pushback?
No, nothing.
What do you say to the people that make a big deal about the bathroom issue?
I say just let them use the freaking bathroom. It's just a bathroom, we all have to pee.
We do. Okay, so back to the church issue, Annalee. There have to be some sermons, some talks that you hear from the general pulpit that might hurt your heart a little or that might leave you conflicted. Mm-hmm. And how do you handle that? How do you deal with that?
Some talks are difficult to hear, but I know that they speak through revelation. They speak through truth based on the information that they have. So I take them with a grain of salt because they're doing the best they can. Our church leaders are, and I support and sustain them 100%. So I think, well, here we go again. I don't know. I know what I've been taught, and I know what's true because I've received those answers for myself. But I just have to put some things on a shelf. I don't have all the answers, and I realize their faith and their revelation is based on the information that they receive as well. And they won't misguide us. I just have to be careful and protect my child from anything I think that would harm him emotionally.
Have you been in classes or in social situations where information might be said about gay or transgender people and you kind of have to step up and not defend your son necessarily, but defend or oppose what they're saying and say, actually, that's not how it is?
Yes. Yes, and I share that story. I say I used to be homophobic, I believe, and I share that story about my sister very, very succinctly and very short, and I say, but I want you to know, I've lived with this. I've lived this nightmare, which has now become such a part of our lives and such a blessing that let me correct you on a couple of things.
And what's the response generally?
I didn't think of it that way. Or, in fact, I had a good friend apologize to me yesterday saying, when you told me about your son, I didn't take it very well and I wanted to apologize. I want you to know I've come a long way since then. And I thought, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. I didn't think anything of it. We're hard to offend at this point.
We've heard it all?
Yeah, we've heard it all.
Yeah. How did your other children take all of this?
It was hard. We have a son, our oldest is serving a full-time mission in Paris, France, and between Joshua and Aiden, it was very contentious. He felt like Aiden was living in a sinful life, even though Aiden hasn't done anything. He's not really living in a sinful life necessarily. And what you're doing is so wrong. He saw everything in black and white, and so it created a lot of contention in the home. We had another son who was great. From the day one, he called him Aiden and used the right pronouns. And then my youngest was still grieving it. It has been up until about a month ago that Elizabeth couldn't bear to call him anything but Emma. So just now he's using the right pronouns. We've had her in counseling to process everything she's gone through because she misses Emma, but Aiden thankfully still does tea parties and all those old things to help her feel at home and to help feel the same constant love that she's always had for him.
How about your husband? Because sometimes guys can be more uncomfortable with this than women.
Joseph's been phenomenal. I couldn't do it without him. That is one tender mercy from God. Joseph and I have never disagreed about raising Aiden and how to raise him. We've been on the same page the entire way, and that's not always the case. In all the support groups I belong to online, one parent is always slower to accept and process, and it's usually the husband or the father. But Joseph has been nothing but supportive. He helps Aiden tie his ties, and he's going to help him learn how to shave and do all those things that he would with any normal boy. You
mentioned support groups online. Once Aiden comes out to you, is that when you kind of go on Google and research and find as many resources as you can?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I used Facebook a lot because I know there are a lot of support groups there. I talked to my bishop, I talked to my stake president, I talked to LDS Family Services, I talked to PFLAG, I talked to anybody that had anything for just youth. I wanted to particularly target parents with gay youth that I could relate to because the isolation is detrimental to our health, even as supporters and allies and advocates, and we just craved connection. I needed another parent to talk to and understand my faith and where Aiden is at, and I needed Aiden to have friends and people who accept him no matter where he is.
At what point did you decide to create Open Arms of Southeast Idaho?
Probably about 6 to 9 months into the journey, I realized I can't do this anymore. It's not enough to have online groups. I need physical interaction. I need to be able to have somebody help wipe my tears, and I need to be able to succor my child better.
And Aiden, do you go to the support group, or is it mainly for parents?
I do go.
You do? Okay, so it's for youth and parents. And you hold your first one. How many people showed up?
We had about 6 or 8 in our living room. Yeah.
And how many now show up?
At our last meeting on Sunday, we probably had close to 30. And we get BYUI students, we get community members, people in college, we've got adults that have children that are gay. So it's come a long way. It's not even just the youth anymore, although we let the youth kind of make their own breakout group, and then we have poignant discussions with the adults on how to process and cope better.
And is that what it is, where you guys get together with other teenagers and you talk about your stories?
There really aren't very many youth and like my age, and it kind of sucks because that was supposed to be part of the point of it, because I was nagging in the beginning. I said we should do something about this, but there's still not very many youth. But last time I brought like 4 of my really good friends, and they're not members of the church either, but they loved it and they wanted to bring their families.
Oh wow. Is it just for church members?
No.
It's for anyone.
It's for anybody. The issues transcend time, religion, no boundaries, so it's for anybody that would like to come.
How many teenagers do you think are in a similar situation as you who have not yet come out or acknowledged their situation here in Idaho?
So many. I feel like there are more than in bigger cities because we're not as progressive in smaller, even though we're not really a small town, but we're still coming along, but I think there are many.
What would you say to them?
I would tell them that it's okay and that I love you and I want you to keep going no matter what.
And what would you say, Annalee? I mean, there's got to be a lot of people suffering in silence.
Yeah, it's a pretty dark place to be, to feel that shame and that unknown territory. But there's help and there's hope. There's some of us are farther along in the journey that can help lend a helping hand. And there's some that are not, that's very fresh, that do not have supportive families. There are homeless LGBT youth we've had in our home as well before. Just reach out. We meet the next time on November 17th at 7 o'clock, and we can provide contact information so we can let you know the address. But there's hope and there's help. There really is. It's okay to come out and to share with us.
Let's talk a little bit about suicide rates. I don't know the exact numbers. I know in Utah it's higher for teenagers, especially those with LGBT in the LGBTQ populations. Have you had? You mentioned homeless children that you've brought into your home, but those that have been on the verge of suicide, Aiden, have you been there before, at least in your thoughts?
I have. It was such a dark time.
It was hard. It's hard to watch your child just spiraling and just slipping away and not have a desire to live anymore because he can't be a self. He doesn't have an identity. It's really painful.
These kids that you've brought into your home, is it because their parents kick them out, or?
Some of them, their parents have shunned them due to their faith. They're a mistake. We do not believe that. That's false. And the others are just because they don't have anywhere to go, living outside in the cold and in a trailer, in a dump. We've had them into our home before as well and tried to get them love and support. Taken them to Love Loud and other North Face, North Star and Affirmation, and just try and help them see that there are people like them around.
It seems that over the past, 5 to 10 years, there has been more acknowledgement, like the Love Loud concert festival, and like you mentioned, church leaders seem to be more willing to discuss this, and resources are available as well. What's your message for parents? Because there has to be parents out there that say, I just don't understand, or I just don't understand what my kid's going through, or I just can't accept it.
They need help, they need intervention, because it's a dark place for that child to be, but it's a really dark place for the parent and the caregiver or the guardian to have to deal with that alone. You need intervention, you need some support and help. Even if you don't get professional help, there's us. A lot of times we do have a certified mental health professional come into our meetings and help navigate some of these difficult subjects, and they've been wonderful. But above all, you need connection. We crave that connection as humans. And suicide is in Idaho, the suicide rate is astronomical, particularly in southeast Idaho. And we could speculate as to what those causes are, but I'm constantly on the lookout for people that are high risk, which my son Aiden is constantly. I wake up and I just want to make sure everything's okay, check in with them every day. Constant communication with your child is important, and be open, let them come to you. You need to make yourself available so they feel safe in coming to you with such grave news, and let that turn into a blessing in your life, because it's changed us in ways I could never have imagined.
As a blessing?
Yes, it's a blessing. Yeah, absolutely.
Aiden, at what point did you feel comfortable enough going public and, of course, being here today? I mean, is this scary to talk about, or are you just open and this is who I am? Are you nervous?
I'm pretty open. I mean, I don't like to announce it, really, but if people want to know, if they have questions, then I'll answer them.
How about you, Annalee? Were you pretty open from the beginning because you needed the help? Or?
That's my style, yep. I'm pretty open from the beginning because I hurt, and I needed healing, and so I'm an extrovert anyway, and so I said, let's talk about it. We need to talk about it in appropriate ways. So from the beginning, I've been open, and let's start discussing it and bringing it into the light.
You have a Facebook page? Do you have a Facebook page for Open Arms? Okay, and anybody can reach out to you guys
Yes.
on there?
Yep.
What's the main thing you can say you've learned, both of you, over the past 4 years?
To don't have expectations for people. You know, don't decide that you can change or fix something or control somebody into becoming who you want them to be. You've got to meet them where they're at and just accept them. You have to just love them the way they are and let God take care of the rest. You can't just go in and hope that you can make changes and that everything will be okay in your happy little family. You just meet them where they're at. Each child is so different but so valuable.
Aiden, what about you?
I just learned to love. I've learned to love everybody.
Regardless. Well, thanks, you guys. Appreciate you coming in here and talking about this.
Thank you for sharing.
I imagine there'll be people that have questions in the comments, but I would say don't read the comments. I'm sure you've learned this by now on any website, not just ours. But thank you for sharing your journey with us, Aiden and Annalee, and it'll be interesting to maybe have you back in 10 years to see where you're at, and maybe you can give some advice for your counsel. By the way, what do you foresee for your future, Aiden? You graduate in this coming year.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do now. I haven't given enough thought to the future yet, but I'm not planning on staying in their basement until I'm 23.
They're going to be crushed to hear that. Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.